So we're coming into another mini ball session. If you're using a mini ball as we have done previously in classes, this time it's slightly more deflated, so let a little bit of air out. You could also use a hot water bottle, particularly for the opening section, like we did in last week's plan. Other things you can grab are some books for your spine stretch and spine twist, and a band would be useful for this session as well. If you haven't got any of those things, doesn't mean you can't participate. Everything you do with props, you can also do without props. So come to lay on your back, bringing yourself onto a head cushion if that's how you've been working, and you know that that's for comfort. So resting your head down. I'm going to take the ball and I'm going to pop it underneath the pelvis. So you can do the same with a partially filled hot water bottle, or you could bring your pelvis onto a cushion. Now before you start, taking your toes apart and bringing the heels into line, you just want to make sure that the ball is feeling like it's supporting the centre of the pelvis. And by knowing that, you tilt forward and back. Do you have freedom to meet both of those ends of ranges? If you feel like you come to an abrupt stop, either forward or back, you may need to adjust the ball slightly, coming up higher or coming down lower. It definitely should feel though that it's underneath the pelvis and not into the lower back. Again, as you may have noticed last week, with the pelvis raised and the head slightly raised, if you're on a cushion or a towel back here, you get more prominent feeling of where the back of the ribs are. So notice that because they're cued throughout the session, so use the feedback and knowledge of their location through that sensation, so that throughout the lesson you can use it as a reference point too. We're just going to start with some breathing just to allow you to settle, knowing that you inhale through your nose and exhale through the mouth. And as you exhale through the mouth each time, you want to feel that there's some letting go happening in the front of the body. That despite the pelvis being supported by an object that has got some ability to move, you feel quite grounded there. Certainly want a sense of continuing to drop into the floor with each breath out that you do. Focus on sending the breath into the back ribs. Know that in addition, the side ribs will expand and you will get some rise and fall through the front of the body. But the focus is really feeding the breath into the floor behind you, locating where the bottom ribs are, and noticing that full deflation through the mouth each time. Your opener is bent knee fall out. So when you breathe out next and you're looking to continue to let go there, I want you to use the feet today. So start to peel the inner border of one of your feet away from the floor, allowing that knee to fall out. And then as you inhale, bring the knee back to the ceiling. Exhaling, start to peel the inner border of the foot away, so you're resting on the outer edge by the time the knee falls out, and then inhale to come back up again. Exhale, let go and fall out. Inhale to return. Exhale, let go and fall out. And inhale to return. And do 2 more, exhaling. And inhaling. Checking in with how the pelvis is. Are you able to create a sense of stability through the centre of your pelvis whilst using the edges and inners of your feet. As you breathe out next, we're going to come into leg raises. Exhaling, you've got the same idea that you drop into the floor and relax. One foot stands down into the floor, one leg lifts. Inhale with your leg raised and exhale to bring the leg back down towards the mat. Take a breath in. As you breathe out, standing down to float. Inhale with your leg raised and exhale to return it to the floor. Breathing out through the mouth, standing and floating. Inhale when you're lifted and exhale to return. We'll do a few more of these. Really think about back rib position, particularly as you stand down into the feet. Can you still manage to maintain that same position of pelvis? Notice in fact whether the legs feel quite different, whether you're able to feel quite grounded down into one foot as you float one knee. And return. And then last one, exhaling for a down to float up. Inhale with your leg raised and exhale to return. It's going to do a little bit of mobility through the pelvis and the lower back segment. So as you exhale from here, you're going to tilt your pelvis towards your rib cage, taking you back to original pelvic tilt sequence. Inhale to tilt away. And you know this as tilting towards 6 on your dial and tilting away from you to 12. Can you imagine that the top of the sacrum pushes down on the ball to bring you into that tilt, and that you lay the sacrum on top of the ball as best you can and almost draw it back towards you with the back of the sit bones. Exhaling to tilt towards your ribs and inhaling to lay the pelvis straight through the middle of the ball, tilt in the opposite direction. 2 more of these. Be gentle with yourself. You can make the movement smaller if you need to make it smaller. You could avoid 12 completely if you needed to avoid 12 completely, and you could just focus on tilting towards the ribs and coming back to a more central position. If you finish in centre there, we're going to do side to side. So as you exhale, you're going to drop down into one side of the pelvis and lift one hip bone up and bring yourself back to centre. Same thing on the other side. Imagine that you're dropping down towards the floor with the back of one hip and the other hip bone lifts up. So again, just to recap, you know that as you drop down with the right hip, you lift the left hip up and send the left thigh away from you, and that would be number 3. And then you bypass that centre position without pausing, dropping down into the left, lifting the right hip, right knee long and reaching away from you, and that would be 9. So you've got this mini torsion occurring through the top of pelvis and lower back segments, and again notice how it feels. Notice if one side is particularly free as you move, and then tilt in the opposite direction. So from there, you want warmed up, creating a little bit more suppleness through the lower back segments. You're going to take the ball away and you're going to place it between the tops of your legs, and we're going to move into bridging. So with it being more deflated, placing it between the knees wouldn't work. You wouldn't really feel that you were drawing into your midline. Having it slightly up towards the top of the legs would work a little better. As you breathe out, remembering to take your head cushion away if you were raised there, stand down into the feet, allow the toes to feel like they're pushing forwards and away from you as you create space enough to lift the hips and pelvis. Inhale when you're up at the top of your bridge, and as you exhale, soften through the top of the chest. Imagine the back ribs widening as they return, as do your sit bones. Take a breath in as you breathe out, just as we've been doing. Standing down into the feet, imagine they push forward, which brings you slightly into that 6 motion, but it's quite small. Now really you're thinking about being on the inner borders of the feet, and you've already felt those during bent knee fallout. Take a breath in, and as you breathe out, soften through the middle of the chest. Imagine the back ribs expanding, sit bones widen, and you just about manage to return from top of spine to bottom of spine. Starting again each time. So exhale down to come up. You're going to float your arms up at the top of this next bridge. Really feel that you're well and truly standing into the inner borders of your feet, the big toes. As you exhale, you'll reach back with the arms as you spread. Palms turn to face each other eventually there, and then you'll inhale to bring the arms all the way back down beside you. Exhaling to come down with the feet, forward with the toes to bring you into that tilt. Still scooping up, you're still sending the knees away from you. Inhale to float your arms, and then exhale, you're reaching them up and back, spreading the center of the body down and towards the feet, spreading the outer part of the body, particularly the arms, up and away from you. Once you're back from there, you could add another one in if you wanted to. Otherwise, you're going to come onto your side and we're going to come into book openings. So you can take the ball away. In fact, I'm going to place it towards the end of the mat because that's where I'm going to pick it up and use it a little later on. Don't need the little cushion anymore, but I'm going to take a thicker cushion. Then knees, soles of the feet in line with the back of me. Then bring myself onto the side. So you're looking at keeping your hips stacked. Notice where they naturally fall initially. Then when you breathe out, you're going to open your arm up to the ceiling, following it with the gaze. Get a sense that the hips stay still until you reach the end of your range, whereby you could drop the hip back. Inhale when you're open. Exhale, nudge the pelvis forward, bring the arm up towards the ceiling and bring yourself back onto your side. Take a breath in, and as you breathe out, open your arm to the ceiling and look towards it. Hips are going to stay stacked. You could gently push this arm down into the floor that you leave behind. Then you could rock back, just notice where you get to. And as you exhale next, from this open position, send the hip forwards. Delay the arm. Get quite a big stretch across the chest as you do that. Just notice where else you might feel the movement too. As you exhale, you'll open up to the ceiling. The arm you leave behind, you can just push it gently down into the floor as you're coming round here with the ribs. And then just dropping back towards the end of range. Notice how this one feels in comparison to the rotations that have come previously. As you breathe out, the hip goes forward. The chest stays open as much as you can. Arm coming to ceiling and closing yourself down. Last one, exhaling to open. You're looking up to your hands. I'm just going to give very slightly with the right arm. Unless it causes you to move your hip earlier, just notice what sort of reaction you have up through the rest of the body. And then as you breathe out from here, hip goes forward, arm comes to ceiling, and that brings you all the way around to close. Same thing on the other side. Knees bent, arms out in front of you. Take a breath in, and as you breathe out, open the top arm to the ceiling. And keeping your hips stacked if you can. Start to drop back. Just when you've met yourself and you can't rotate any more through the middle part alone. And then as you breathe out, the hip goes forward, arm comes to the ceiling, and you bring yourself back onto your side. Take a breath in. As you breathe out, arm to ceiling. Looking at the palm, it's going to help you. Also leave a little bit of that arm behind, so upper arm just gently pushing into the floor. Then drop the hip back, take a breath in. As you breathe out, hip pushes forward, arm comes to ceiling, and that brings you all the way back onto your side. Breathing out to open.
Dropping the upper arm down into the floor. Allowing the hip to rock back. Take a breath in. And as you breathe out, send that hip forward. Arm comes to ceiling. And that brings you back onto your side once more. Last one. Exhale to open. Keep coming round. Notice when your pelvis moves. Allow it to move towards the end. And then staying open there. Nudging the hip forward and bringing you all the way back onto your back. Once you're here and you're on your back, narrow parallel of your feet. Just notice how that feels through the ribs, toes apart and heels into line. And coming into chest lift, followed by your crisscross. Elbows are narrow. As you breathe out, create some length. Soften through the sternum. Start to roll the ribs in. And as you inhale, you lay yourself back down again. Exhale to lengthen and hover. Soften through the sternum. Roll the front ribs in. And then inhale to lay yourself back down again. Exhale to lengthen. And inhale to lay yourself back down again. Last one on its own, breath out. Carefully nod, drawing in. And then inhale to lay yourself back down. Crisscross, you flex first, just as you've been doing. And then you're going to take the front left rib across the body to try and meet the front right hip, opening that opposite elbow out to the side. Square yourself off into the center before you lay yourself back down again. Breath out to lengthen. And rotate. Inhale. And lay down. Exhale, lengthen. And rotate. Inhale. And lay down. Last one. Exhale, lengthen. And rotate. Right ribs to left hip. Inhale, center yourself. And lay yourself down. As we did last week, it's quite a lot of work. Knees come into your chest. And you're going to circle the thigh bones, femur circles in one direction. The legs move away from each other. Shins and feet are relaxed. Feeling that the arms and the hands are stirring the leg around. Change direction here. And then from here, you're going to come up into an assisted roll-up. So if you take hold of the backs of your legs, just open up the angle at the back of the knee slightly. The legs are a little bit further in than they'd usually be, so know that. So as the thighs go away from you, they'll go a little further before you chest lift through the upper body, nodding the chin to the chest. Feet are going to continue to come down towards the floor, and that will bring you all the way up to sit. From here, you're going to come onto a block or a few books. You're going to straighten your legs out in front of you and come into your long sit. So legs are outstretched, just on the end, front end of the block, just to help me sit up a little taller. Arms are going to come out in front. As you breathe out, nod your chin to your chest. Draw the front ribs in, send the back ribs back. And as you inhale, bring yourself all the way up to sit. Exhaling, nodding your chin to your chest. Softening and sliding through the upper body, drawing the front ribs in and spreading the back ribs back. And then inhale to bring yourself all the way back up again. One more like this, exhaling. front ribs in, back ribs back, and then inhale. And we're going to come into crisscross seated here as well, so interlace your fingers and take them behind your head. As you breathe out, just be aware, hands are touching the head, yes, but they're not going to pull the neck forward. You've got that aspect of bottom left rib to front right hip to rotate you, and then as you breathe in, bring yourself back to center and unravel to be tall again. Exhaling, length before you dive. Be aware that this is a touch but not a pull down. Front right hip, just so that you can get that feeling in a very slightly different orientation to gravity. We are going to do crisscross after we've done a few more moves. So exhaling, bottom left rib shortens and comes across to front right hip bone, right elbow opening. Be aware they're there, but they're not pulling on the neck forwards. Last one, exhaling and rotating, and then you inhale and you unravel. Arms are going to go out to the side for spine twist. As you breathe out, rotate to one direction, look over the shoulder, collarbone wide, and as you breathe in, bring yourself back. Can you feel your sit bones firmly planted into the floor as you gaze round and keep looking, collarbone wide there, and as you inhale, bring yourself back to center. Two more. Exhaling, swiveling ribs, head looks, collarbones widen, and inhale. Last one, breath out, swiveling ribs, head looks round, collarbone, and then inhale to bring yourself back. Relax the arms, quite a lot of work through the arms there. We're going to come into rolling down and rolling up with the band. You're going to use your ball and you're just going to pop it underneath or wedge it so it's sort of touching. It's not going to move anywhere anyway because it's quite deflated. So you get a sense that it's there behind you. And the rolling down and rolling up, like I said, we're going to use the band as well. So bring that around your feet. And you're going to sit tall. If you haven't got a band, you can use a yoga strap or a pair of tights. Something that's going to give you some support on the way down. So as you breathe out here, think about the backs of the legs going into your mat and forward and start to tilt the pelvis. Now, immediately you sense that the ball is there, but you're going to keep tilting. You're going to keep tilting, and you're just going to hang out on the top of the ball. So the ball is roughly on the entire pelvis, right up into the top, almost coming into lower back. And you just want to feel that the front of the pelvis is dropping down, you're fully supported. Can you continue to swallow your ribs? You're going to breathe in here, and to help you with that, as you breathe out, the ribs draw back, you start to reach your arms forward, but because your band is quite tight, it's going to bring you all the way back up to sit, and you start again. Exhaling back so the legs go down, forwards and away from you, and you start to tilt. You're tilting to six and you're continuing to tilt to six, as you know in this one that happens. And you want to feel that you're continuing to tilt, but you're aware that the ball's there and it's giving you some support and you're quite heavy or relaxed really on the ball. Take a breath in. Practice rib position. So if your sternum softens more here as you exhale, the front ribs draw in more, the back arms move away from the spine, and bring yourself all the way back up again. So you breathe out, backs of the legs go down and forwards. You're starting to tilt to six. You're going to keep tilting to six all the way back here. Relaxed on the ball. Take a breath in. Sternum draws back. Ribs draw in and out. Arms move forward. And you come up to sit. So from there, you're going to take that away, you're going to take the ball away as well, and we're going to roll down. We're going to come into single leg stretch, which is the one where you switch your leg, straight leg, bent leg. coming into crisscross, which we've done in a couple of varieties already, so we're well prepped for it. We're going to do 6 of each. So as you exhale, the feet go down and forward and you start to tilt your pelvis. Imagine the balls there. You continue to tilt to 6. Draw your feet towards you just when you feel you need to. Keep tilting. Imagine the balls there and you're heavy and relaxed through the back of the pelvis. The feet draw towards you only when you need them to, and you're going to keep your upper body up. So elbows will widen and there's a real strong connection between hands and legs just to keep you up in your flexed position. If you bring one leg in and straighten the other leg long and away from you, and you're going to come into single leg stretch arms, so one arm down the outside of the ankle and the other hand on top of the knee. And then you exhale to switch, and you're going to try and maintain your flexion. And you exhale to switch, and again try and maintain your flexion. Exhale. You push the shin as it releases upwards slightly just to help. And we're going to finish here. Interlace your fingers, take them behind your head and rotate yourself round towards that knee. Exhaling rib to hip. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. From there, bring your knees into your chest and lay yourself down and bring your feet separately down onto the floor. Arms could come a little wider and away from your body, and as you breathe out, sway your legs over to one side. Inhale when you're there and exhale to return. Exhale, sway legs over. Inhale when you're there and exhale to return. Exhale to come over. Inhale. Exhale to return to the ceiling. Exhale to sway over. You do 2 more. And last one. I'm going to use this last one to turn to face, and I'm going to come into side lift. So side lift today, either with knees bent, top leg straight, or 2 legs straight, as you know. Arm is going to come onto the outer part of the hip. So you're not going to use it to help you come up. You're going to look at how well organised you are in the upper part of the body. So as you breathe out, send the elbow down. Be aware of the armpit lifting and the ribs lifting up. Be also aware of your head position. You keep the hips coming up. They also start to move forward as the arm lifts up towards the ceiling. Inhale whilst you're up here and exhale to carefully bring yourself all the way back down again. Take a breath in. As you breathe out, elbow goes down, armpit lifts up. Now, you might just about get the hip off, that would be fine. But if you then started to drive the back of the pelvis forwards, you'd still be in a straight line, taking the arm to the ceiling. Inhale whilst you're up here, and then exhale to bring yourself all the way back down again. This is your last one. As you exhale, down to come up. Can you feel as much as possible that you're using the back of this shoulder? The pelvis moves forward, the hips are open, very much like they'd be in a bridge, at the top of a bridge, and then carefully bring yourself all the way back down again. From here we're coming into side lying. So if you lay yourself down now, and you could grab a head cushion between your arm and head if you wanted to. If you had bent legs, you'll need to bring them forward into more of a book opening position, and that top arm comes onto your hip. 2 feet move away from each other so that the top leg lifts, and then you'll inhale to swing the leg forwards and exhale to swoop the leg back. Breath in and breath out. Breath in and breath out. Inhaling and exhaling. 2 more, inhaling and exhaling. And last one. As you come into the last one, you're going to keep the leg back and we're going to make that transition up into a seated position where your front leg remains the front leg, the back leg will move very slightly round, but it remains the back leg. You could have your legs outstretched in front of you if you'd prefer. You're going to inhale and lift your arm and exhale to take yourself over into your bend. Breath in when you're here, and as you breathe out, bring yourself all the way back up again. Inhale to lift, and exhale to take yourself over into your bend. Breath in when you're here, and breath out to bring yourself all the way back up again. 2 more, inhaling, arm lifts like a single arm arc with use of shoulder, long lengthened upper arm. Breath in when you're there and breath out to come back. Imagine you've got the wall behind you just for this last one so that you feel that the back of the head continues to maintain its alignment with the back of the shoulders and the back of the pelvis. And then bring yourself all the way back up from there. And from there you're going to come to lay on the opposite side for your side lift. Again, if your knees are bent, the fronts of them are in line with this elbow here. You have a tiny bit of outward rotation in the forearm. Legs are behind you and your other arm is going to stay on top of you. As you breathe out, push down into the floor. Keep lifting the armpit and the ribs in. Take the arm up towards the ceiling and then think about your pelvis coming forwards. Inhale when you're up and then exhale to carefully bring yourself all the way back down again. As you breathe out, you're going to come down, elbow, armpit feel like it lifts up. Notice that the head begins to incline into the opposite direction. Allow the head to move. Head moves when the pelvis moves. So as the pelvis moves up and forward, you'll find that the head moves away and comes into line. And then lower yourself back down again. Last one. Exhaling, down to come up. Pelvis goes forwards, arm lifts up. And then as you breathe out, you carefully bring yourself all the way down from there. Straighten your arm out in front of you. If you had legs that were bent, they'll need to come forward and the hand comes onto the hip. Knees move away from each other and you'll have an inhale to swing the leg forward and an exhale to swoop the leg back. Breath in and breath out. Inhaling and exhaling. In as the leg swings back next, it's going to stay back, and that's going to be your transition to come up into a seated position. So push yourself up, same arrangement of legs. Might need to just bring that back hip around. You want your 2 front hip bones firing forwards here before you start to bend. You'll inhale and lift up, and then exhale to take you over to your side bend. Notice that it's a bend, not a lean. Inhale when you're there and exhale to come back. And to get that sense of bend, not lean, you think about lifting up and over something to take you over there. The hand that you're leaning on, the elbow draws into the side of the body, and then as you breathe out, you'll bring yourself all the way back up again. Last one, inhaling, and then exhaling. Inhaling when you're here, and then exhaling to bring yourself back. From here, we're going to come into dart, so you're going to lay on your front and we'll move into dart. You're going to use your ball for dart as well. It comes underneath the sternum, so centre of your chest. So find your organisation of your legs first, where you walk your legs away from your body, and take the ball, it's just going to come in between the sternum centre of, and then legs are going to be out straight. So you'll notice that the head feels like it's falling off the neck a little as a starting position. You could have your head supported with a head cushion if you'd prefer. The shoulders are rounded. You take a breath in. Now create some length first, as you all know how to. Midlift blades, back of neck, crown of head. Notice how you started to send the air of the ball forwards. Open the collarbones. Keep reaching long with the legs away from you and the hands. And then as you exhale, bring yourself all the way back down again. So breathing in and creating some length, followed by width. The sternum pushes forward and then upwards, and then exhale to come all the way back down again. Take a breath in, lengthen, widen, and then exhale to return. Last one, inhaling. And if you take the ball away now, rest your head on your hands with your elbows pointing out to the side. You're going to come into double leg kick, where you're reaching those legs long, two big toes reaching away from you, and you start to fold the knees in towards each other. Extend and lengthen the legs and then rest them down. Inhaling for some length. Exhaling for a knee bend. Inhaling for length once more. And then exhaling to lower. And you can work this at your own pace. And you can work it with a flipped breath pattern if it prefers, if you prefer it, if it works better for you. Otherwise, lengthening as you breathe in, exhaling as you fold, trying to keep the lower back super still. Notice what your clock is doing, so a little bit of a tilt to 6 often helps this organisation when you're folding in and reaching away. And you've got that idea that tops of the thigh bones push down, as you all know, bending your knees, reaching them away, and resting them down. And then from there you're going to come up into a child's pose, and you can also come onto your back as an alternative and bring your knees into your chest. So something that rounds you through the whole of the spine. And then from here, we're going to come into a reverse roll-up. So if you come onto hands and knees first, but curl your toes underneath you from here. And then with the toes curled under, you walk backwards. Give yourself a little push so you end up on the balls of the feet. Now, if you're not sure from here, come back to your knees and just stand up. Otherwise, you're in a deep crouch. You could check in with your parallel foot position already, and you've got your hands firmly on the floor. As you take the hips up towards the ceiling, they don't have to straighten completely, those legs. You've still got hands on the floor if you want to. You're going to start to lift the front of the body away from your clothing so that the legs begin to straighten. The arms begin to dangle, and you've started your unraveling and brought yourself upright. Once you're completely upright there, you're going to roll yourself back down again, thinking about, as you exhale, you soften, you nod your chin to your chest, you turn the front ribs in and spread the back and side ribs back. Notice how it feels and soften your knees if you need to. Try and let go as much as possible. Back of the head. Inhale when you're down here and we're returning in the same way. So as you exhale, you can think about lifting the front of the body in and away from the clothing. Ribs turning in, unraveling, and bringing yourself all the way up. You can move a little quicker if you felt you needed to, but stay rounded and stay connected through the front body. So you want to feel that the front body draws in towards you on the way down with that up and over feeling, and also on the way up. So once you get to the bottom of this next roll down, if you'd like to, you're going to walk forward out onto your hands. As you do that, if you've needed to bend your legs slightly before you've taken your first walk, then see if you can straighten them again as soon as possible so that you can use them as much as possible, bringing the back of the head up and in line, feeling strong there in that position that you're using your toes and your legs. And then send the heels backwards and downwards as you walk back towards your feet. Again, softening your knees so that you can keep your hands on the floor if you'd like to. And as you breathe out, lifting up through the front of the body, arms are dangling, ribs are drawing in, knees are beginning to straighten, but they don't have to be straight even here. Just noticing how it feels for you and switching things up if you need to. Slow is good in that case. Exhale, chin to chest, and that you can address anything that comes up. You notice more the slower you move. So stay in tune, even though we're at the end. Once you get to the bottom of your roll down here, another option to walk out if you'd like to, or you could stay. Take a breath in, and as you breathe out, you could unravel again. So entirely your choice. If you're out here, you're using your legs, and you send your heels backwards and downwards. Soften your knees. And as you breathe out, lifting the front of the body in towards the back of the body. And that's going to gradually bring you all the way up. To finish. Well done, everyone. Take care.